Hi, I'm Peggy Mace with DiabetesDaily.com. Today I'm going to explain how a person with diabetes can get the best life insurance rates. There's a number of factors that affect what type of life insurance and what type of rates a person with diabetes can get. The number one factor is what type of diabetes you have. A person with type 1 diabetes generally will pay higher rates than someone with type 2 or prediabetes, and definitely higher than someone with gestational diabetes. There's also latent autoimmune diabetes in adults, kind of falls somewhere between type 1 and type 2. The second thing is the age when you were diagnosed with diabetes. If you were very young, even maybe a toddler, your rates generally are going to be somewhat higher than someone who was diagnosed later in life. If you're in your 70s and get diagnosed, your diabetes hardly affects your rate at all. Your treatment plan is another thing that will affect what type of diabetes rates you get. Some companies will charge more for a person who uses insulin than somebody who doesn't use insulin. There are some companies that charge about the same whether you use insulin or not. The last thing they look at is the overall picture. Different things affect your overall health besides your diabetes, of course. One is, do you exercise? Do you follow your diet? Do you smoke? Do you drink excessively? Those things can all affect what kind of diabetic rate you get. On the positive side, if you have a good blood pressure under 136 over 86, if your cholesterol runs under 100 and your cholesterol ratio is under 5, and if you monitor your blood glucose regularly, see a doctor regularly, that all can help you get better diabetes life insurance rates. Finally, the biggest thing in all of the factors for life insurance for diabetics is what your control is. If you have type 1 diabetes and you have an A1C that's running under 7 regularly, have no side effects from your diabetes, you can actually get a better rate than someone who is diagnosed at a later age and has poor control. A1C is one of the number one things that life insurance underwriters look at. A 7 or under is considered excellent. A 7.1 to 8.5 is okay. 8.6 to 10 is poor. And over 10 is definitely considered uncontrolled and probably will disqualify you for a traditional life insurance policy. However, that doesn't mean you can't get life insurance. It just means your rate will be higher. When the underwriters are looking at your A1C, they're kind of also looking to see if it's stable. If it's constantly fluctuating, that can affect it. So even if it's a little higher, as long as it's stable, that can help. If you have a pattern of your A1C going down, that also helps your life insurance underwriting. The frequency of the blood glucose testing, if you test your blood more than 3 times a day or at least 3 times a day, is helpful. If you see your physician at least 4 times a year, at the very minimum twice a year, that will help your life insurance rate. If you only control your diabetes by diet, that might be a little bit of a lower rate than if you have to use pills or insulin. Again, the overall control is the main factor. Sometimes we find that people that use a combination of drugs really have better controlled diabetes than somebody who just uses one drug and just kind of sticks with it no matter what. All these things can make a difference in what kind of rate you get, and so we just encourage you to really go for good control. Complications that can affect your rate are retinopathy, neuropathy, peripheral neuropathy is usually a little bit more of a negative effect on your rates than sensory neuropathy, which is numbness or pain in your feet or fingers. The degree of either one will make a big difference in what rate you get. If you have ulcers or an amputation, normally you cannot get a traditional life insurance policy, but we do have policies that you can get, and I'll explain those in a little bit. If you have a complication of heart disease, that really does make it tough to get a traditional medically underwritten life insurance policy. However, if you've had mild diabetes and maybe just one stent and your stent was proven to be successful, you can normally get as much life insurance as you want and still at an affordable rate. If you have vascular disease or stroke, those are really hard to find a traditional policy, but again, we have other ones that will work, but those are some pretty serious side effects, as well as nephropathy, which is a kidney disease. Almost every person that has diabetes, if you've had it many years, is going to have a little bit of a kidney function affected, but the lower the problem is, the less severe, the better your rates will be. Of course, if you have diabetic coma or ketoacidosis, those are serious, again, side effects, but we can still find you a policy that's called a graded policy, and we can still get you insurance. With all of these, the older you are when the complications occur, the better your rate will be. So what type of policy should a diabetic person get? What type of life insurance should you actually look for? We recommend that you go for as long of coverage as you can. Diabetes, as you well know, is not going to generally improve with time. Just by having it a number of years, even if it's very well controlled, it can take a toll on your body. So normally, the shorter the time you've had your diabetes, the lower your rates are going to be. The only exception to that is when you're just very first diagnosed. The underwriters like to see a little bit of a pattern of control. So it's best to wait maybe like till after your first follow-up A1C, at least, maybe 2 follow-up A1Cs, and once you have 2 normal ones, you're good to go. The rates that a person can get, if you are actually rated, or if you're diagnosed after age 40, you can usually be rated a standard rate or better. And if you're diagnosed after age 70, you can be rated preferred with some companies. Now again, this depends on your control, if that means excellent control. If you're a type 1 diabetic and you have good control, they'll do what they call table ratings. You'll be rated somewhere from a table 6 to table 8. This is a standard rate is the base for that, and then they just add on a table rating for the type of diabetes you have, the control you have. Some companies have totally better rates than others, so always use a company that specializes in diabetes life insurance, such as diabetesdaily.com, because we know exactly which company to go to that can get you the very best rate. If you're not able to get even a table rated policy, there's called simplified issued policies. And this is what I was speaking about before. If you've had a complication, a stroke or coma or something like that, these are graded. Well, actually, I take that back. Not all of them are graded. You can get a simplified level or a simplified graded. A level policy is one where the premium and the death benefits stay the same for the entire term, or if you're getting whole life, they stay the same for the rest of your life. A graded policy is one where the death benefit is a little bit less the first 2 to 4 years. For example, you might get a $100,000 policy in the first year. If you passed away from an illness, it would pay $20,000. The second year, it might pay $40,000, and then the third year, it would pay $100,000. So no matter what, a graded policy is still better than having nothing. There's no way you can put money in the bank for that kind of a situation. And after it hits that graded part and that part is over, you'll have a level policy the rest of your life. So what can you do to get a better life insurance rate? That's the million-dollar question, really. The main thing that you can do is to see your doctor. If you're going to go into a medically underwritten life insurance policy and you take the exam and your A1C is 11, you're just not going to get that policy, and you're going to go through a decline, and you're going to be frustrated, and it's just going to be a bad experience for you. So if you're not sure whether your diabetes is controlled or not, see your doctor. And if you go to your doctor and your A1C is running high, or you have been having neuropathy and it's not going away and it's getting worse, ask your doctor what you can do to get your diabetes under control. And if your doctor can't do it, go see another doctor, go see an endocrinologist if you're not going to one already. This is something that's going to affect you the rest of your life, and you deserve to have the very best care. And there are doctors that really do know how to get your diabetes under control. There are those cases, of course, brittle diabetics, and some that really it's impossible. Again, we always have policies for you too, but for the average diabetic, there are things that can be done, and combinations of medications and things that can help you get a good life insurance rate. Another thing to do is don't wait to apply later. You know, if you feel like you are not sure whether you can get the best rate now, or if you want to wait a while, it's best to just go ahead and lock in something now. And then if you can get more control, then want to get a better rate later, just go ahead and replace it. Term insurance has no penalty to replacing it. Do what you can to improve your control, but also make sure that that's noted in your medical records. The life insurance companies are looking at your medical records, and if you're doing all kinds of great things, but your doctor just puts the same old notes in there, every 6 months, it's not going to help your case so much. So make sure that your doctor has medical records up to date with the good things that are going on in your life. Don't take your exam while you have an infection or other thing that is going to possibly raise your A1C. And try to fast at least 8 hours before your exam. If you're overweight, it's best, again, go ahead and get your policy. If you feel like you are going to lose weight and get a better rate later, just lock it into a shorter term to start with, and then apply again later for a longer term. Finally, use a specialist in life insurance. Again, at diabetesdaily.com, as you can see, we have a lot of information at our fingertips. We use 50 different companies, and we know which ones have the best rates for diabetics. We know which ones have the best rates for type 1. We know which ones have the best rates for people diagnosed over age 60. We have all that information, and we can really help you get a great rate locked in. You deserve great life insurance. Thank you so much.